We're good. Okay, hello everybody. Today I am so honored and thrilled. I have Altea Lucrezia with me. She is an amazing light language channeler, um, light code activator, healer, Reiki practitioner, just overall asset to the human collective.
Thank you. That's a very beautiful introduction. Thank you.
I feel like I'm like what cosmic quantum architect, the whole shebang. So I first found Altea through a dear friend of mine, Sandra, who has a YouTube channel, Akura.
Oh, wonderful.
And yes, and I will say immediately when I started watching your content, I had a very just resonant feeling of like, oh, I know her. I know that energy. It was just very familiar and it was so lovely. And that was before you had even started doing your light language transmission. So when you started doing that, I instantly had like a cellular response and an activation, and it was really moving. And I hadn't seen anyone work quite the way that you do before. Besides kind of what I did alone in my room, I hadn't really seen anyone, like as if they're working on a circuit board in front of them, or it was amazing. It really was. So I sent your video to a few friends and they were like, wow, like I don't know what I'm watching, but I feel it everywhere. And that's what I love about light language, is that it really asks you to just turn off the brain and feel it, because you don't need to know what it means, because your soul, if you really can let go, your soul understands perfectly. And so that was just such a beautiful experience. And I was like, I would love to talk to her. I think that it would be an amazing dialogue. And here we are. So
thank you so much for having me. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm very, very grateful. It's always nice to connect and expand beyond what is your usual routine or channeling.
absolutely.
So thank you for having me.
Thank you. So just one quick question, because I know we talking about a lot, where the light language is concerned. If you could just touch quickly on what that is and what your inner process is while you're transmitting or while you're receiving or channeling.
Okay, so the light language itself is a form of expression that can come in many different ways, vocal, signed, written, like everyone expresses differently. It is a language that comes from the soul. The vocal and verbalization comes through a specific frequency that works directly on your etheric body and DNA structure. So it bypasses the conscious mind. So you don't have to understand to what it is that's being said. Let's say if you can imagine English being the world language, light language would be the galactic language that a lot of beings can resonate. And then there's different dialects, different ways of speaking, and whatnot. So that's a little bit of background. Obviously, it's a lot more, and it's a lot more expansive. And then certain people can resonate with certain, ways and languages and connections, but it can't really be translated as to English. So a lot of people ask me, what are you saying? And I'm like, it's you can't. It's more of like a feeling and an understanding. So for me, I don't really have a process, if it makes sense. My channel is very integrated at this moment in time because I've been doing it for about 4 years. So it's not like I have to tune in and call it, if it makes sense. It's always a part of me. It's an integrated part of me. However, when I first started, it was a little bit different. I started with the writing first, then my hands activated, then about I think 2 months after that, my throat started activating. So it was a little bit different. I don't really, not that I don't spontaneously activate. It's very controlled now. So I know what comes when it comes. And that's also why I'm able to speak in English in my channeling as well, because it's both aspects are quite integrated. Meanwhile, when my channel first opened, I would just literally start, like I would see and then I will start and I would activate it. And it was less of a flow. It was more like, when it came through, I had to, get it through, if it makes sense. Now it's a
Yeah.
lot more controlled. Yeah.
Wonderful. That's amazing. Thank you so much. Um, so we talked a little bit before, just about, I felt really guided to talk with Althea today about just the significance and importance of really addressing and integrating our Earth human experience. I think as a collective, we have a tendency to jump the gun a little bit sometimes because it's really exciting. We have access to more information than we ever had. People are expanding their awareness to the cosmos and cosmic origins and the Akash. And it's all really multidimensional and fascinating, but there's still a lot of work to be done, at home base in the here and now. And all of those latent aspects of our eternal existence will be there. But can you just touch on kind of the importance of why grounding and being aware of what is the memories that we avoid revisiting, the emotions that we assign to things that we haven't transmuted? Why is it so important to do that?
Yeah, I think there's a big misconception right now in the spiritual community where everyone is like, oh, I want to be in 5D, I want to ascend. Yeah, you can be in 5D, but you still need to be anchored and rooted in third dimensional density. You can't go anywhere up here if you're not grounded down here. I ground up to 20 times a day. Like, I need to ground so much because I work at such high levels with my clients at times that it's very, very important. Your first priority needs to be grounded. If you're not grounded, you can't even receive, and what you're receiving, it's probably not even what you think you're receiving. I mean, just if you think of the toroidal field and how the system works in the chakras, starts from the root, the sacral, the solar plexus, the heart, the third eye, the crown. The toroidal flows like this. So if you're not anchored and grounded at the bottom, whatever you're receiving up here is not, do you know what I mean? So a lot of people, they're like, yes, love and light, and yes, be in love, be in light, but being in flow with the universe and in flow with the energy and with high vibrational frequencies lies between surrendering to the divine will of the universe, but also having discipline. You need to be disciplined. This is something that so many spiritual people out there are not bypassing, but they're not explaining it. So this is a big part of my role into what it is, that how I teach and how I communicate, and what I explain that you need to be disciplined. We need to go through fourth dimensional density before we go to the fifth. Right now, the third and fourth are actually overlapped. So there's quite there's quite a lot going on between the two. And even though we are heading somewhere where there's, a release of belief systems, attachment to identity and whatnot, right now we still need structure. We still need to, do things like shielding your field, not out of fear, do it out of love.
Right.
But you still need to do it, especially if you're working energetically, if you're working on people, if you're tuning into specific things, you don't know what can come. Remember, whenever you're tuning in, you are opening a channel of light. What happens? Things want the light. So you want to be shielding, you want to be cloaking your field, you want to be grounding, you want to be anchoring. There's a whole array of things that no one teaches us. No one teaches about cording. No one teaches us about collective cords. No one teaches us about ancestral cords. You know what I mean? Timelines, karmic clearing, karmic patterns. There's all these things that are, I don't want to say textbook because it's not, but there's sort of passages and lessons that our souls have agreed to go through. And for us to go through them in the best possible way, we need to, ground, balance. If you imagine, like, let's say you need to get from point A to point B. So this is lesson A and this is lesson B, okay? So now you're learning lesson A. How you get from lesson A to lesson B, you can either get like this smoothly and learn lesson B, or you can go all over the place and then get back here if you don't understand lesson A. So you're going to go back. Our free will lies in between lesson A and lesson B. So that's where your choices lie. Does it make sense? You can choose to step back, listen, be in a space of detachment, of understanding, of grounding. Why is it so important to ground? Because if you're not grounded, you're not going to be able to see the best possible option of your timeline. There's infinite timelines and possibilities, and only by being grounded in a space of detachment, we are able to see the best choices for our soul at this moment in time. So if you're frantic and you're too worried about the past or the future, you're not anchoring enough in the present,
Right.
then
Be
obviously
present.
you're not going to go you're not going to stay in the highest of alignment, so it's not going to be easy for you in your free will. So I hope that explains a little bit. I know there was a lot
Yeah.
there that came through, but yeah, it's valuable.
Yeah, no, that's such a huge epic point, that anytime that we are predominantly experiencing our past or worrying about the future, we are not emotionally, mentally, or spiritually available for anything new to shift in the present. So that kind of brings me to the next question, which is, I know a lot of people, I've even been there myself, where reoccurring themes will pop up, cycles, could be different characters, but same situations. And the importance of recognizing how that, first of all, you can get off the bus, you can, get off the wheel, you can get off the ride. But the importance of moving out of victim mentality and realizing you have choices. You can choose different, you can choose new. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but it's an option for you that's there if you want to, shift in your experience.
Yeah, I think, anything that lies beyond your comfort zone is growth. If you want to grow, you need to get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
With regards to patterns, I think sometimes people struggle to recognize them. I think that's where the first blockage comes in. But I think once you recognize them, then that's when the magic happens. Then that's when, what they say that, the spiritual healing and understanding is it's not really when you're lying down and you're chilled and everything's fine. It's in the midst of confrontation,
Yep.
of situations,
Yes.
when you choose to respond differently. Remember, your environment is a projection of yourself, so how you choose to respond then creates your environment around you. We are master co-creators of our reality. We've just forgotten about it. No one teaches us these things in school.
Yep. Yep. So next, I wanted to touch on, this kind of is a natural extension of that question, but our chakras, but most importantly, our heart. I know a lot of people I've talked to that have said, "Man, I just feel like I'm not connected to my heart, or I'm like locked out of my heart. I don't really feel it. I don't really," because it's so easy to say follow your heart. But if someone's not even feeling like they're connected to that, or they know what that really feels like or means at that point, it's not, super helpful or meaningful for them in that space. I know that for me, a really big help to bridge that space for me at a certain time was realizing that I had been living inauthentically for a very long time, and I hadn't really been exercising my intuition. And so just by starting to make small steps, by saying no when I meant no instead of yes when I meant no, was really helpful in me reconnecting and making a deliberate, intentional step to reconnect with my truth. Can you give any advice or insight on how people can intentionally start to, connect to their heart?
Yeah,
For their truth.
There's a few different ways. I mean, there's hundreds of ways probably, but this is quite an easy one that just came through to me now. Gratitude works really well. So really sitting in gratitude, doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be anything dramatic. You can be grateful for your legs because they make you walk, grateful for your eyes because they can see. It's just about a frequency and really, really feeling the gratitude in your heart. Above that, gratitude also puts you in a state of abundance, having everything you need when you need it. So really gratitude is something that I speak a lot about with my clients, that I really think really helps connect to the heart center. And then, yes, as you mentioned as well, being in your truth. If you don't know how to be in your truth, this is also something that I encounter a lot with my clients. Some of them struggle, like they're confused, like, how do I say my truth? How can I be in my truth? So there's a nice way of checking it when your thoughts, your emotions, your actions, and your words are all in alignment. So you say something, it's how you feel, then you do it. You think something, you say it, it's how you feel. Do you know what I mean? So by checking on
Right.
those things within yourself, then you know you're being authentic, you know you're being in your
Right.
truth. And I think, yeah, really just the gratitude, thinking about the loved ones, and also something else, following your passion, something that makes you happy, that brings you joy, passionate, creativity, creating, making something, whether it's painting, journaling, I don't know, pottery, or teaching. It can really, really be anything, but something that really ignites your spark. And maybe the first few times you still struggle to connect. Then by the third and fourth time, you're like, oh, now I'm connecting a little bit more, until eventually you're more connected. And it's the same as you said, following your gut, following your intuition. That comes maybe with a little bit more practice, but there's plenty of ways that you can connect to your heart center. These are just a few.
Thank you. That was great. I love that you mentioned gratitude, because that is absolutely imperative to connecting to the heart. This was a question that a friend asked me to ask. How can we have more lucidity in our dreamscape?
Okay. It will take a little bit of practice. Setting the intention before going to sleep. That's quite a big one as well. So before you're going to sleep, set the intention. I want to remember my dream. I want to be conscious in my dream. Yoga Nidra is something that really, really helps. Anything that really helps with third eye activation and exercises. Candle meditation, candle gazing. So you light a candle, you sit in front of it, you stare at it for about 2 minutes, then you close the flame, then you close your eyes, and then you see the flame in your third eye. So anything really that helps with the third eye and practice with that will help with lucid dreaming. Also, this is something that I've learned in my experience. I've been very blessed with lucid dreaming from a very young age. So I've always had it. And it's not something that, you know what I mean? I had to kind of like learn. There were a few years where I didn't have it as much, but now because of how what I do, it's very, very prominent. And something that I've learned in my own experiences of how to remember your dreams. It's quite interesting, because a lot of people, you'll wake up and then, you'll forget it. So when you wake up, keep your eyes closed. Don't move your head. Repeat the dream in your brain. It's really important not to move your head, because when you move it, it's kind of like this. So I don't know if this is in any books. This is something I've channeled and I've learned myself. So I don't know if this is scientifically can be explained. Maybe I don't know, but the way I feel is when you move and you get up and your head moves, there's kind of like this mechanism that goes in, okay, nighttime stuff, I don't need to remember it. Daytime, now I'm remembering. Meanwhile, if you're awake and you repeat it in your head without moving, your brain automatically associates it with day stuff that needs to be remembered. So then you will remember it throughout your day, and you might even get more stuff that comes throughout your day. So that's also some advice that people, because I know a lot of my clients really struggle with remembering. So first start with remembering. After you well with remembering, then you can, tune more into the lucid dreaming. But anything that activates and works with your third eye will help with more lucid dreaming.
Thank you. And then one of the last things I wanted to touch on with you was just ego, and how much ego likes to pretend it's spiritual. How clever ego can be sometimes, and sneak in there and kind of try to attach to something, or and how easily we like to identify with something or define ourselves around something, without even realizing we've entered this space now that's a little bit not as kind of high vibe as we thought we were, the space thought we were operating from.
Yeah, I think the ego is essential. It's important. It's an essential part of everyone's, soul and humanity. I think the ego is only a problem when it creates blockages. So when it starts to create blockages, and again, as you said, attachment to identity, when that becomes a problem and you start identifying, oh yes, I'm a Pleiadian being, oh I am a teacher, I am a prima ballerina, or whatever it is. Yes, you can be that, but you also so much more. So when it comes into that's attachment to identity, which goes into ego, but ego itself is actually not necessarily a bad thing. It just really needs to be integrated. I think there's a very big spiritual, I don't want to say misconception, but there's a lot of there's a lot of people out there who speak from these spaces, and they do mean well and they do come from a place of love, but I think it's important, first of all, to empower everyone. And, you can do what I do. Anyone can do what I do. I'm not special. We all special in our own individual way. You know what I mean? And some people have some gifts or some aspects that are more developed than others, and that's okay. But we can all be anything we want. This is something else. Like, people always ask me, what's my soul mission? What is it? And I'm like, listen, some people have like sort of paths that they've been down more than others, but you really can co-create whatever you want in this lifetime. You're a master co-creator being. So again, there we go into ego, we go into attachment, oh, but I was a warrior in my 7 lifetimes. Why am I not a warrior now?
Everybody wants like this grandiose, and sometimes and to me, it's way more impressive than anybody kind of gives credit for, but just healing and moving through what we are. I mean, there's so much happening on so many levels and layers and dimensions at once right now, that just kind of being able to, have all of these timelines collapsing and releasing, painful, traumatic emotions while going to work or raising a kid that's amazing. That's really impressive. And so I think, that is pretty grandiose. It doesn't sound maybe as sexy as some of the other things, but it's a big deal, so.
It gets easier, but it doesn't end. Like I was saying this, I think I said this on my live the other day. I'm not sure. I had a very intense experience recently, about a week or so ago. So I'll be clearing constantly for myself, well, more collectively, but sometimes I get very intense timeline clearings for myself. So I was sitting and I was looking at a photo of my daughter, and then I suddenly downloaded this whole lifetime of mine where I'd lost a son, and he was the same age as my daughter at the time when it happened. So I just started crying and pouring it out, and I was like, oh my God, obviously I knew what was going on, but it's I had to, go through them. So, I mean, it gets easier, it gets more gentle, and you learn better how to integrate it and integrate the parts of itself. But it's still hard work. And yes, well done to everyone out there, because we all going through stuff. We all did contracted to be here. So we kind of like, but still, it can be quite intense, especially as you said, if you've got a job, you've got a family, you've got kids. But even if you don't, like the lessons can come through quite intensely at times. So yeah, well done to everyone, and pat yourselves on the back.
If you feel guided to, if you did have any a light language transmission that you would care to share, that would be beautiful. No pressure though.
No, it's fine. I'm going to pull through some codes. I want you to just close your eyes. And just for everyone, be in a space of openness, of oneness. Don't try to understand. Don't try to interpret. Just listen with your heart and not with your mind. Nata karaishe motoya tarashe tot kat kreturoi matrie no shotokot karashe tokot kruktnara tiarashe mata. Tena tokocheta tero itkorot krin matkraya se tokoraseta krukt naretea shiatoro atkechiono motoro isha teatro shet kat kruan matrai shetekana nia tearat krikt notoro shet kar matrai se notokot create rish tokoroha. Yeah, this is going to help with timeline clearing in past lives. Nia roto shet kat create roisha mata tret koroshet krain matara ishet koroset kra traya tero shet kra. It's going to help with clearing the lower chakras as well. Nat kuroi machinat reset kra, opening, ta 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 ra te rashi to to na tarait keri mashinata tietoro to kutkarai ishite aros to kutkar matket kruknat ra te roshit korot kra tiat kra na te ia te roshit kan met riet koroishita kat krien motorashinat kri te tinayat Tiare to rosheta kat kriet kuroi matra ishena takat kudurosheta kat ta 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 na 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 Te roshana ta yamasheto kurai ishena ta amnesheto koto ishematara. Yeah, remember to be gentle towards yourselves. Nia shimotorai ishito shito kotoa isha tatro ishinma anishito koina space of empathy, compassion. Shiatoro ishitara ishataka natakara. We're all reflecting light from each other. Naimara shinotoa shinataya shita shiatoro ishita tetkoro inshan matara ieshit unchatakarai metro ishinataka shiero tokoro ishitara isha irashino nirma ishinotoko shiataka krietoro triashira. Honor your emotions, honor your body. I moshinatare siotokoro shiatokora ishina nerotokora ishimatara ishiatokoro ishinataka kriet ishit karaimotokoro ishinataka Nayo shurantokora imichidatara iseta ta 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 yeshitokota ta 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 yanatare shimataka Okay. Okay, thank you. There's just something quickly that I want to touch on before we close that came through now. The importance also of the physical vessel. Whenever we're trying to, raise our frequency, be in these spaces of healing and of understanding. It's very important to take care of our physical body, hydrate, drink lots of water, healthy fruits, vegetables, exercise. Like, it's very, very important. I don't think enough spiritual people or people out there actually emphasize as much on this concept. It's like, for me, it's something that they've always been telling me, that they've told me from the beginning. Like, I was told, when was it? A few months ago, they actually said to me that I had to put on more muscle on the upper part of my body because of the amount of frequency that I have to withstand whenever I'm doing lives. Maybe there's like 200-300 people and I'm channeling for everyone. So they were like, no, you need to put us. So I was like, oh, okay. I'd never ever done like weights in before, like maybe a little bit when I was younger, but nothing much. And they were like, no, you actually like now you start need to, So just for people to know out there, obviously this is different for me. Everything's a bit more extreme for me for what I do, but it is very important. If your body is physically fit, you're going to be releasing easier. And remember, guys, anything on a physical level, anything that you feel on a physical level can't come from an energetic imbalance. A lot of the stuff is contracted, but especially if you struggle with things like autoimmune disease can be caused by not being grounded enough. What happens? Your soul is trying to stay in the body because it's a little bit too out because you're not grounded. The cells start fighting each other to try and keep it more in. So, just something again to be mindful of, to not forget that our physical vessel is, of a primary importance. Yeah.
Beautiful. And thank you for that transmission. That was amazing.
It's a pleasure.
I'm going to include all of her info in the description. So if you want to follow up with her and work with her, I would highly recommend, and I will make sure to have all that info.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just want to quickly mention, I do have, so you'll check my website and all my things. I do offer something which is called collective healing, which is really like what I offer mainly to the collective. It's $12 and you guys get 45 minutes of channeled light language. I do it every month and it really, really helps in supporting me. And it's a very small investment from your part.
Right.
So I have the next one that's coming up every month. I've got one and the recordings of the old ones are on my website as well. And then I do one-to-one work and clearing light language activations. I do 6-week and 6-month programs, but all the information will be below. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. This was so fun. I really appreciate it.